Well, it's always difficult predicting what's going to completely change the world in tech. That's the wonderful thing about it. But what you can do is look at where the significant changes have happened that actually will impact on people's lives and commerce and the economy and things like that. And so one of the phrases you can't avoid now if you open a paper is artificial intelligence. A lot of what's being spoken about is not very well-informed sort of extrapolation. But putting that aside, underneath that there is something absolutely fundamental that is going to change most aspects of our world. So if you put it in the grand scheme of things, we saw the effect of the Industrial Revolution where machines replaced muscle. There was actually another revolution which was around the end of the late 60s where we got machines to do tasks that humans did that were simple and repetitive. So the whole IT industry, a computer can add up the payroll. But what it couldn't do was deal with much more subtle, complex ideas. And so those tasks have always been done by people. Well, suddenly we've had some really fundamental breakthroughs in the technology. And now we're seeing a world where a lot of those tasks can be done by machines. And they bring some of the advantages that machines have. They can look at vast amounts of information in one go. They can carry on and not get bored. They can go to places that people can't do it. And so that is going to change pretty much everything. There will be some false starts, there will be some overpromising, but we are in a period of incredible change. And then in other areas, and these things are interdependent. Sometimes it's the AI that allows you to make a breakthrough somewhere else and things like that. But genetics is another one. The ability to understand and manipulate genetics is going to affect medicine at a level we've never seen before. So at the moment, our whole concept of medicine tends to be about the idea of cohorts and the idea that everyone is going to react in a fairly similar way to something. Well, completely radical idea now is personalised medicine. The idea that actually the outcome for a medical intervention is going to be highly personalised, and genetics is a key driver of that, and what's called epigenetics, which is another related area. So, those are two very, very fundamental examples there. We've got one on the IT side, one on the biological side. And that's before we start looking at the dark horses. So one area, for example, is quantum processing. Now, this is a more interesting one. The first two I've talked about are definitely here and now, and we're at the beginning of those. Quantum is one of these things where we're not quite sure whether we're there yet, but if we are, then again, it's a phenomenal change. So, for example, it will affect all sorts of areas like security and cybersecurity, but it will also affect computing in a fundamental way. You'll be able to do things you just couldn't do before. So it's a rather unique time in human history that you've suddenly got this almost a singularity in terms of technological change, things coming together. And what that means is that it's very difficult to predict exactly where things are going, but where you have to have something in the game.